The moment I saw that text message, my stomach dropped like a lead weight. Can't wait to see you again tonight. Last time was unbelievable. The message flashed across the screen of Emily's phone, sitting unlocked on the kitchen counter. My wife's phone. My wife. I stared at it, my fingers trembling, my pulse hammering in my ears. A name at the top of the message thread, Jason. I knew exactly who he was. Her old friend from college. The one she insisted was just a buddy. The one she always got defensive about whenever I asked why he texted her so much. For a second, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe. Footsteps. Emily walked into the kitchen, hair slightly damp from her morning shower, wearing that casual smirk she always had when she thought she was 2 steps ahead of everyone. "Morning, babe," she chirped, completely unaware of the bomb ticking in my chest. I held up her phone. "Who's Jason?" Her face didn't change. Not a flicker of guilt, not a shadow of hesitation. She snatched the phone from my hand with a casual chuckle. "Are you seriously going through my messages? That's pathetic, Nick." Pathetic. Not surprised. Not concerned. Just irritated that I caught her. I should have exploded right there. I should have demanded the truth. But instead, I did something worse. I waited. I forced myself to stay silent, to let the rage settle into something cold and calculating. I wanted proof. I wanted every detail before I made my move. So I played dumb. I let her brush it off, let her roll her eyes, let her walk away like she had nothing to hide. But in my head, the war had already started. That night, I followed her. I watched from a distance as she got into her car and drove, not to her sister's house like she told me, but to a hotel across town. Watched as she stepped into the lobby, checked her phone, and within minutes, met him. Jason. Tall, smug, overly confident. The kind of guy who didn't care whose life he was wrecking as long as he got what he wanted. I clenched my fists so hard my nails bit into my palms. Emily laughed at something he said, playfully smacked his arm, grabbed his hand. My wife. Holding hands with another man. And then, she kissed him. Something inside me snapped. The pain, the humiliation, the betrayal. It all hit at once, a wrecking ball to my gut. But I didn't move. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about catching her. It was about making her pay. I didn't move. Didn't storm in like some fool who just found out the truth and lost his mind. That's what Emily expected. That's what they expected. But I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. Instead, I pulled out my phone. A few taps, and the camera was rolling. I zoomed in, capturing every second, her hand slipping into his, the way she looked at him, how she leaned in close like she hadn't just been in our bed this morning telling me she loved me. I recorded it all. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt, but my brain stayed ice cold. This wasn't the time to let emotions take over. This was time to prepare, to make sure that when I did strike, it wasn't just some angry husband throwing punches. It was destruction. Jason and Emily disappeared into the hotel. I waited. Not for long, maybe 5 minutes. That was all I could take before rage threatened to spill over. Then I turned and walked away, fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. I drove home in silence, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The images kept replaying in my head. Her lips on his, her fingers in his hair, the way she laughed like she didn't have a husband waiting for her at home. When I got home, I did something I never thought I'd do. I poured myself a drink. Strong. Straight. The burn in my throat didn't do a damn thing to kill the burn in my chest. I sat there for what felt like hours, just staring at the door, waiting. At 1:17 a.m., Emily walked in. She didn't even look guilty. Didn't sneak in like she had something to hide. No, she waltzed through the door like she had a long day at work and just wanted to crash. She wasn't even trying to cover her tracks. That was the worst part. She didn't respect me enough to even bother lying well. "Hey," she mumbled, kicking off her heels. "You're up late." I didn't answer. Just watched her, waiting. She stretched, let out a yawn. God, I'm exhausted. Still, I didn't say a word. She finally glanced at me, brow furrowing. "What?" I stood, walked past her, locked the door, turned around slowly. "How's your sister?" There. The tiniest flicker of hesitation. A second of tension in her shoulders. Then she rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Nick. Are we still on this?" I stepped closer. "Where were you?" "I told you. I was." "Don't." My voice was calm, but there was weight behind it. "Don't lie to me again." Her jaw tightened. "Are you spying on me now? That's real mature." I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. The video started playing. Emily froze. For the first time, she actually looked shocked. I watched her eyes dart to the screen, then back to me, calculating, weighing her options, deciding if she should play dumb, get defensive, or come up with some last-second excuse. Then, just like that, her expression shifted. Not guilt, not shame, annoyance. "Oh, grow up, Nick," she scoffed. "Grow up." That was it. That was her response. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I can explain." Not even "I messed up." Just "grow up." I took a slow breath, gripping my phone so hard I thought it might shatter. "That's all you have to say?" She crossed her arms. "What do you want me to say? You want me to break down crying? Beg for forgiveness?" She let out a dry laugh. "Get over yourself." I stared at her, barely believing what I was hearing. "You're cheating on me." She shrugged. "Maybe. So what? So what?" The woman I married, the one I built a life with, was standing here telling me to get over it like I just caught her eating the last piece of cake. Something inside me turned black. My hands went numb. My breathing slowed. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't my loss. It was hers. She just didn't know it yet. I exhaled, rolling my shoulders back. Let the anger melt into something colder, sharper. "All right," I said, slipping my phone back into my pocket. "You're right." Emily blinked. "Wait, what?" I smiled. The first real smile I'd had all night. "You're right. I'll get over it." Her eyes narrowed, sensing the shift. "What are you?" I turned, walking toward the bedroom. "You'll see." She followed. "Nick, what the hell does that mean?" I didn't answer, just kept walking. Because now, I wasn't just reacting. I was planning. And by the time I was done, she'd regret every single choice that led her here. The next morning, Emily acted like nothing happened. She woke up late, stretched like a cat, and took her sweet time getting ready. I was already up, sipping my coffee, watching her move around the kitchen like she wasn't the worst person I'd ever met. "Morning," she said casually, like she hadn't spit on our vows the night before. I didn't answer, just studied her, memorizing every detail. The way she hummed while pouring coffee. The way she checked her phone with a little smirk, probably expecting a message from him. The way she didn't care that I knew. I was done being shocked, done being hurt. Now, I was just waiting for my moment. She finally noticed my silence. "Oh, come on, Nick. Are you seriously still mad?" "Still mad." I let out a slow breath, set my cup down. "No." She raised an eyebrow, waiting for me to snap. But I wouldn't. That was what she wanted, to push me until I lost control, to make me the bad guy. Not happening. "Good," she said, grabbing her bag. "I'm meeting Sarah for brunch. Don't wait up." I smiled. "Have fun." She hesitated for half a second, like she was expecting me to throw a fit. But I just sat there, sipping my coffee. She left, and the second the door clicked shut, I moved. I grabbed my laptop and started working. Emily had no idea who she married. She thought I was just some nice, boring guy who would cry and beg and forgive her. But I wasn't a man who forgave. I was a man who destroyed. Emily didn't know that I had full access to our finances. She also didn't know I had my own accounts, ones she couldn't touch, ones I'd been quietly building for years. First, I moved everything out of our joint account. She'd wake up one morning expecting to use my money for her little shopping sprees, and she'd find nothing. I had photos, videos, bank statements showing expensive dinners I never ate, hotel stays I never booked. I compiled everything into one neat folder labeled Emily's Choices. If she wanted to play games, I was going to win. I wasn't going to be the idiot who stuck around, hoping she'd change. No, I was going to leave first, but not before making sure she felt every ounce of the humiliation she put me through. By the time she walked back through that door, I had everything in motion, and I was just getting started. It was late when she came home. She smelled like expensive perfume in him. She kicked off her heels, stretching like she'd had a long, exhausting day of cheating on her husband. I was sitting on the couch, watching her. She sighed dramatically. "What now, Nick?" I tilted my head. "How was brunch?" She paused, just for a second. "It was fine." I smiled. "Good. Say hi to Jason for me next time." Her face froze. It was quick, just a flicker of panic before she masked it with indifference. "I don't know what you're talking about." I stood, grabbed a folder from the coffee table, and tossed it onto the counter in front of her. Her hands stayed at her sides. She didn't touch it. "What's this?" she asked, too casual. I leaned in. "Open it." She hesitated, then flipped it open. Her face drained of color. Photos of her and Jason at the hotel. Screenshots of messages. Copies of bank statements. She swallowed. Nick, this is proof, I cut in smoothly, of what you are, what you've done. Her nostrils flared. You've been spying on me? I let out a laugh. Spying? No, Emily. I was watching. There's a difference. She closed the folder with a snap, crossing her arms. So what? What's your big plan, huh? Gonna cry about it? Threaten me? She smirked. You don't have the balls, Nick. I chuckled. Oh, sweetheart. I reached into my pocket and slid something else onto the counter. A divorce petition. Her smirk vanished. That, I said, tapping the papers, is me giving you one chance. Sign it. Walk away with whatever little dignity you have left. Or, I leaned in, lowering my voice. I sent everything in that folder to everyone. Your friends, your family, your boss, Jason's wife. Her jaw clenched. You wouldn't. I smiled. Try me. She stared at me, eyes darting to the papers, to the folder, back to me. She thought she had control, thought she could lie and manipulate and get away with it. Not anymore. I picked up the pen and placed it in front of her. Sign it, Emily. She didn't move. I exhaled, straightening up. All right. You made your choice. I grabbed my phone. Guess it's time to make some calls. Wait. I paused. She was gripping the pen so tight her knuckles went white. Her chest rose and fell in sharp, angry breaths. She was furious. Not because she felt guilty. Not because she regretted it. But because she was losing. She snatched the papers and started signing. Each stroke of the pen harsh and venomous. When she finished, she shoved them at me. There. Happy. I picked up the papers, tucking them neatly back into the folder. Then I met her eyes and smiled. Ecstatic. She stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. The war wasn't over yet, but I'd just won the first battle. And Emily? She had no idea what was coming next. Emily thought it was over. She thought signing those papers was the end of it, that she could walk away, maybe even crawl back to Jason and continue living like nothing happened. She had no idea that I wasn't done with her yet. The divorce wasn't enough. A piece of paper didn't erase the way she humiliated me, the way she looked me in the eye and lied, over and over. She needed to feel it, to suffer. So I made sure she did. It started small. Her credit cards mysteriously stopped working. The joint account? Empty. I made sure of that the moment she signed the divorce papers. She could keep her own money, what little of it she had left after her reckless spending, but she wouldn't get another cent from me. At first, she played it cool. She thought it was a bank error, some temporary issue. But then she checked her email and saw the notifications. Joint account closed. Card access revoked. That was the first crack. The first moment where she realized she wasn't walking away untouched. Then came the eviction notice. She assumed she'd get to keep the house while we figured things out. Assumed I'd be the one packing up my things and leaving like some heartbroken loser who couldn't bear to live where she betrayed him. Wrong. The house was in my name. The mortgage, the deeds, everything. I let her get comfortable for a few days, let her think she'd won, that she had time to sort out her next move. Then I sent the official notice, 30 days to vacate. No negotiations. She blew up my phone that night. I didn't answer. She tried texting, first demanding, then pleading, then trying to manipulate. I ignored every message. By the time she showed up at my office, she was seething. She stormed in, ignoring my secretary's protests, and slammed both hands down on my desk. Her nails were chipped. Her hair wasn't as perfect as usual. Little signs that things were starting to fall apart. You're kicking me out? She spat. I calmly set my pen down, laced my fingers together, and leaned back in my chair. That's usually how it works when you cheat on your husband and sign a divorce agreement. Yes. She scoffed. You can't do this. I arched an eyebrow. Pretty sure I just did. Her breath hitched. For the first time, real panic flickered in her eyes. Nick, listen. No, my voice was cold, final. You listen. You didn't just break our marriage, Emily. You spit on it. You didn't even pretend to be sorry. You thought you could walk all over me, and I'd just take it. She opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. You thought I was weak. That I'd forgive you. That I'd be the one to suffer while you moved on without consequences. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. But you forgot who I am. Her lips parted slightly, her breathing uneven. I could see it sinking in. This wasn't a fight she could win. Her mask slipped for just a second, and beneath it, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Fear. She straightened up, trying to compose herself. Fine. You want to be an ass about this? Go ahead. I'll move out. She folded her arms, lifting her chin. Jason and I were planning on getting a place anyway. I laughed. Loud. Sharp. Jason. I shook my head, grinning. Oh, sweetheart. You still don't get it, do you? Confusion flickered in her eyes. I picked up my phone and pulled up a new file. I turned the screen to face her. It was a screenshot of a message. From Jason. To his wife. It read, I messed up. It was a stupid mistake. Please, just give me one more chance. I'll cut her off completely. You're the only one I want. Emily's face drained of color. I let her stare at it. Let her process the fact that she wasn't just losing me. She was losing everything. Then I delivered the final blow. I sent everything to his wife 2 days ago, I said casually, slipping my phone back into my pocket. His texts, the hotel receipts, photos of you two together. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Guess how she took it? I continued, tapping my chin like I had to think. Oh, that's right. She threw his cheating ass out. Emily swallowed hard. She wasn't just being kicked out of my house. She had nowhere to go. She was alone. I stood, smoothing out my suit jacket. I'd say I feel bad for you, Emily, but that would be a lie. I walked around the desk, stopping inches from her. You deserve every second of this. For the first time, she had nothing to say. She just turned and walked out, her steps slower, heavier than when she came in. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Satisfaction. She had spent years thinking she was untouchable, thinking she could manipulate her way through life without consequences. But now, she was falling, and I wasn't going to catch her. Emily was unraveling. A week had passed since our last conversation, and I hadn't heard a word from her. No more texts. No more desperate calls. No more storming into my office, demanding to be heard. At first, I thought maybe she had finally accepted defeat. Maybe she had found some way to land on her feet, just like she always did. But then I got a call. It was from Sarah, her best friend. The same one she always claimed she was with when she was really out screwing Jason. Her voice was tense, clipped. Nick, you need to come to O'Malley's. Now, O'Malley's was a bar downtown. A place we used to go when we were younger, before Emily became obsessed with expensive wine bars and Instagram-worthy restaurants. I considered hanging up. Whatever mess Emily had gotten herself into wasn't my problem anymore. But then Sarah said something that made me pause. She's talking to people, saying things she shouldn't be saying. That got my attention. Emily wasn't just reckless. She was vindictive. If she was drunk and running her mouth, there was no telling what kind of damage she could cause. I grabbed my keys and left. The bar was dimly lit, packed with the usual Friday night crowd. The smell of spilled beer and cheap cologne filled the air, along with the sound of off-key karaoke from some idiot trying to sing Bon Jovi. And then, I saw her. Emily was slumped at the bar, a half-empty glass of whiskey in front of her. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged. She looked nothing like the composed, put-together woman she used to be. She was wrecked. Sarah was standing off to the side, arms crossed, looking frustrated. She glanced at me and shook her head. She's been talking **T about you all night, she muttered. Telling anyone who'll listen that you ruined her life. That you. Emily's head lifted. Her bloodshot eyes locked onto mine. And then, she laughed. A slow, bitter chuckle that sent a ripple of irritation through me. Well, she slurred. Look who finally showed up. I walked over, keeping my voice calm. You need to go home, Emily. She snorted, grabbing her drink and taking a long sip. Home? What home, Nick? She slammed the glass down, sloshing whiskey onto the counter. Oh, that's right. I don't have one, because my holy ex-husband threw me out on the street. People were starting to listen. Heads turned, whispers spread. This was exactly what she wanted. Attention, sympathy. I wasn't going to give it to her. I gave you 30 days to find a place, I said evenly. Not my fault you spent them feeling sorry for yourself instead of making a plan. Her jaw clenched. You took everything from me. No, I corrected. You threw everything away. I just made sure you couldn't keep benefiting from the life you destroyed. She exhaled sharply, fingers curling into fists. You always thought you were better than me, she muttered. Even when we were married. You looked at me like I was some dumb little girl who didn't deserve you. I tilted my head. And yet, you're the one who treated me like a joke. Like I was just some backup plan until something better came along. Her lips pressed together, but she didn't deny it. That was the thing about Emily. She was a terrible liar when she wasn't in control. When she didn't have the upper hand, the cracks started to show. She picked up her glass again, but this time, her hand shook. The anger was just a mask. Beneath it, I saw something else. Panic. She wasn't just mad at me. She was scared. She had no money, no home, no safety net. Jason had abandoned her the second his wife kicked him out. For the first time in her life, she had nowhere to go, and she knew it. "I'm not going to save you," I said quietly. "Not this time." Her breathing hitched. She wanted me to take the bait, to argue, to fight, to give her some kind of reaction. But I was done playing her game. I turned to Sarah. "Make sure she gets home safe." Then I walked out, leaving Emily sitting in the wreckage of her own choices. 2 days later, I got another call. This time, it was from my lawyer. "You're going to want to hear this," he said. "Emily just filed a motion against you." I blinked. "A motion for what?" "She's claiming you manipulated her into signing the divorce papers under duress," he explained. "She wants a larger settlement. More money. Half of everything." I closed my eyes and let out a slow breath. She really didn't know when to quit. "She doesn't have a case," I said. "She signed voluntarily. I have proof." He chuckled. "I know, but that's not the point." I opened my eyes. "Then what is the point?" "She's desperate. And when people are desperate, they do stupid things." I didn't respond right away, because I already knew what this was. Emily wasn't trying to win. She was trying to hurt me. If she couldn't get me to take her back, if she couldn't manipulate her way out of this, she'd make me pay in other ways. But what she didn't realize was, I was ready for war. Emily had always been a fighter, not in a way that earned respect, but in a way that made her pathetic when things didn't go her way. She would scratch, bite, and throw tantrums like a spoiled child, just to get what she wanted. And right now, what she wanted was to make my life hell. I sat across from my lawyer, arms crossed, staring at the pile of documents she had filed. Duress, emotional abuse, financial manipulation. It was all bullshit. "She's grasping at straws," Robert said, flipping through the pages. He was a no-nonsense kind of guy, sharp as a blade. "But even though she has no case, she can still drag this out for months if she really wants to." I exhaled slowly. "What are our options?" "Well, we could fight it in court, but that means time and money." Or, he tapped his pen against the table, studying me. "We could hit her back before she even gets started." I arched an eyebrow. "How?" "She has nothing right now, Nick. No job, no house, no real assets. She's living off whatever scraps she can find. If she wants to play this game, let's make sure she loses fast." I leaned in. "I'm listening." Robert smirked. The first move was cutting off every possible angle she could use against me. I had already locked down my finances, changed all my accounts, and ensured she had no access to my assets. But that wasn't enough. We had to bury her before she even started digging. Step 1, expose her lies. I had proof, text messages, recordings, even video evidence of her cheating. I had been smart enough to gather everything before I confronted her. My lawyer submitted it all as part of our official response. Step 2, take away her credibility. She had no job, no income, and a reputation built on appearances. And appearances? They were crumbling fast. I made a few calls. Nothing illegal, nothing shady, just truth. I reached out to some old connections, including people who used to admire Emily. I let them know about her lawsuit, about the way she was trying to scam me after signing the divorce papers willingly. Word spread fast. Suddenly, Emily wasn't the victim anymore. She was the gold-digging ex-wife who got caught cheating and was now trying to play the system. And then came the final nail in the coffin. Step 3, cut off her support. Jason was already gone. His wife had taken everything in the divorce, leaving him just as broken as Emily. He had no money, no job, and no reason to help her. That left Sarah, her so-called best friend, the only person still tolerating her. I knew Sarah. She wasn't a bad person, just someone who liked feeling important. Emily had used her for years, treating her like a backup, only calling her when she needed something. So I gave Sarah a choice. We met for coffee, and I laid it all out, every single time Emily had lied to her face. "She told you she was with you when she was sleeping with Jason," I said. "You covered for her without even realizing it. And now, she's dragging me to court because she thinks she can squeeze more money out of me." Sarah's expression hardened. I told her to let it go. She wouldn't listen. "She never listens," I said. "She only cares about herself." Sarah sat back, tapping her nails against the table. I could see it, the realization settling in. The understanding that Emily wasn't her friend. She was just someone who used people until they had nothing left to give. After a long pause, she sighed. I'm done with her. And just like that, Emily lost her last ally. A week later, I got the news. Emily had withdrawn the motion. No settlement. No court battle. Nothing. She had lost. I should have felt relieved. Victorious. And I did. For a while. But then I got another call. This time, it wasn't my lawyer. It was a police officer. Mr. Dawson, we have a situation involving your ex-wife. I frowned. What kind of situation? She was arrested last night for trespassing and vandalism. My grip on the phone tightened. Where? He hesitated. At your old house. My house. I exhaled sharply, running a hand down my face. What did she do? She was caught breaking in. Neighbors reported loud noises, and when officers arrived, they found her smashing windows and throwing furniture around. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Of course she did. Emily had lost everything, and instead of accepting the consequences, she went down swinging, even if it meant self-destruction. She's currently in holding, the officer continued. She's asking to speak with you. I opened my eyes. Asking to speak with me? No. I was done with her. I don't have anything to say to her, I said flatly. If she broke the law, she can deal with the consequences like everyone else. There was a pause. Then the officer sighed. Understood. We'll process her accordingly. I hung up, and for the first time since this all began, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Emily had spent years living a life of deception, manipulating people, treating love like a game. But now she was just another name in a police report. A ghost of the woman she used to be. And I was finally free. Emily had finally hit rock bottom. Hearing about her getting arrested should have been satisfying, but all I felt was a strange emptiness. Maybe because, for the first time, there was nothing left for her to take from me. No more mind games, no more threats, no more pathetic attempts to crawl back into my life. She was finished, and I had won, or so I thought. 2 days later, I got another call. This time, it was from Jason's wife, or rather, ex-wife. I hadn't spoken to her since everything went down, but the moment I picked up, I could tell she wasn't calling to make small talk. I need to tell you something, she said, voice sharp. And you're not going to like it. I rubbed my temple, already exhausted. What now? It's about Emily. I exhaled. I don't care. She's not my problem anymore. You will care, she snapped. Because she just bailed Jason out of jail. I sat up straighter. Jail? Oh, you didn't hear, she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Your ex-wife's boy toy got himself locked up a few weeks ago. Apparently, he ran a little too many business deals under the table, and the IRS wasn't happy. Fraud, unpaid taxes, real dumbass move. I let that sink in. Jason had always been a snake, but I hadn't expected him to be stupid enough to get himself thrown in jail. So Emily bailed him out, I said slowly. Why? She let out a humorless laugh. Because she has nothing left. And Jason? He's the only idiot still willing to take her back. That was interesting. Emily had burned every bridge, lost every ounce of credibility, and destroyed whatever reputation she had left. The only person she had left in her corner was a washed-up fraudster who had just spent weeks behind bars. She wasn't looking for love. She was looking for a lifeline, and she was desperate enough to grab onto him. So what does this mean for me? I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. There was a pause. Then, in a quieter voice, she said, It means she's planning something. I frowned. What? She's been talking. Telling people you set her up. That you pushed her into a corner, ruined her life on purpose. I clenched my jaw. She ruined her own damn life. She knows that, she said. But she's never going to admit it. And now that she's got Jason back, she has nothing to lose. That part sent a chill down my spine. Because desperate people, they do stupid things. It didn't take long before I found out exactly what she had planned. 3 days later, my lawyer called me again. She's filed another motion, Robert said, sounding beyond annoyed. I groaned. You've got to be kidding me. Not kidding, he said. And this time, she's not just after money. She's claiming you were abusive. I froze. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. Because out of all the dirty tricks Emily had pulled, this was low. She's saying you were emotionally and financially abusive, Robert continued. That you controlled her, manipulated her, and made it impossible for her to leave the marriage. I let out a slow breath, gripping my phone. She's lying. I know, Robert said. But that's not the point. I closed my eyes. I already knew where this was going. Emily didn't care about winning in court. She cared about dragging my name through the dirt. If she couldn't destroy my life financially, she'd do it publicly. And Jason was helping her. This isn't about money anymore, I muttered. No, Robert agreed. This is about revenge. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Emily went full throttle, running to every social media platform, crying about how she had been trapped in an abusive marriage and how I had left her homeless and broken. She told half-truths wrapped in outright lies, twisting reality just enough to make herself look like the victim. And Jason? He was right there beside her, feeding the flames. She's not giving up, Robert told me after yet another round of legal back and forth. And as much as I hate to say this, the longer we fight, the worse this looks for you. I gritted my teeth. So what? We just let her get away with this. No, he said. We end it. I sat back, folding my arms. How? He smirked. We do what she never expected. The plan was risky. It could have backfired. But it worked. And in the end, it was glorious. I made one final move, one that Emily never saw coming. And when the dust settled, she was done for good. Emily wanted war. She had lost everything. Her reputation, her home, even her so-called friends. But instead of taking responsibility, she convinced herself that I was the villain, that if she screamed loud enough, if she threw enough accusations into the wind, someone would believe her. And Jason? That loser was right beside her, feeding the fire. I could have fought her the traditional way. Let the lawyers drag this out in court, counter her lies with facts, waste months playing her pathetic game. But Robert had a better idea. We let her think she's winning, he said. Then we pull the rug out from under her. I leaned in. Go on. The first step was playing along. I didn't respond publicly to her lies. Didn't get dragged into online fights or try to defend myself on social media. Instead, I let her build her little illusion. Let her talk. Let her play the victim. Let her think she had control. All while Robert worked behind the scenes. See, Emily had made a mistake. She had no money, no stability, and no real way to support herself. Yet, she had just bailed Jason out of jail. Where did that money come from? We did some digging. Turns out, she had borrowed it from a loan shark. Not a bank. Not a legal lender. A shady, back-alley type who didn't care about court cases or social media drama. And now, they wanted their money back. It didn't take long before Emily started cracking. She had been so focused on destroying me, she hadn't even realized the walls were closing in. Her online rants became more erratic. Her accusations grew wilder. And then, she disappeared for a few days. I knew why. The loan shark wasn't playing games anymore. And neither was I. The final nail in the coffin came in the form of one simple email. It was from a journalist, one who had originally been interested in Emily's sob story. She had reached out to me weeks ago, asking for my side of the story. I had ignored her. Until now. I sent her everything. Screenshots, video proof, messages of Emily admitting to the affair, laughing about how she was going to take me for everything. Documents proving she had lied in her legal filings. Evidence that she had stolen money from our joint account before the divorce. And, just for fun, I threw in a little extra details about her loan shark problem. The journalist ate it up. The next morning, a new article dropped. The truth behind Emily Dawson's story, exposing the lies. It was brutal. It picked apart every false claim she had made, laid out the facts for the world to see. Her entire narrative shattered overnight. And just like that, Emily was done. Her final downfall came fast. The moment people realized she had lied, they turned on her. The sympathy dried up. The support vanished. Even the people who had been defending her started deleting their comments, pretending they had never believed her in the first place. And Jason? He ran. As soon as the loan shark started coming after Emily, he bailed, left her to deal with the mess alone. She had betrayed everyone for that guy. And in the end, he did what she did to me. Walked away the moment she wasn't useful anymore. Karma had never tasted sweeter. The last time I saw Emily, she was sitting on the courthouse steps, looking like a ghost of the woman she used to be. The arrogance, the confidence, the fake charm, all gone. She didn't even look at me, didn't say a word. She just sat there, staring at nothing. And for the first time in years, I felt nothing for her. No anger, no hatred, No sadness, just freedom. I walked past her without stopping, without looking back, because I was done. And this time, she knew it.